This is a thank you and also a dedication to four individuals that I think either directly or indirectly help me with this material or in music in general. So the first is somebody named Randy Sandmann. Randy was somebody that I knew as a young person, very young. I was just a kid, and I used to go see Randy's band play quite a bit in Medford Lakes in New Jersey. And he was the one that inspired me to take up the guitar. He was a very good player, and he was very nice to me, very, very kind to me. And throughout my career, we kept in touch, and even at a few points, we played together and played on a few recordings together. So I would just like to say thanks to Randy. He passed away recently, and in either a small way or a large way, Randy gave me a purpose in life and gave me a vocation with the instrument, the guitar, and music in general. So I have Randy to thank for that. So he's missed. I miss him, and I'd like to dedicate this to him in part. The next is somebody named Sonny Troy, or Thomas Gagliardi, and he was a jazz guitarist. Again, he didn't pass away too long ago either. And he was the first guitarist. I remember I saw him in a club one time, and he was just magnificent, a magnificent jazz guitar player, and was the first one who really made me, I took lessons with him for, I guess, about 6 months or so, made me look at the guitar harmonically. He was probably the first person to do that, and to look at the instrument as a solo instrument, and as a harmony instrument, and not just playing lines. To really start to delve into chords. He had a beautiful touch with chords, and he was the first person that really made me aware of that and brought me on my way with chords and to start experimenting with the guitar harmonically. So I must thank Sonny for all his inspiration. He was just a beautiful player, and he was very good to me. Again, throughout my career, we would stay in touch. I would go to see him play, and he was just so nice to me. You know, he was many times my elder, but he was always had a moment for me, which was great. The next person is Tom Giacabetti, and once again, somebody who passed away not too long ago. I studied with Tom at Temple University from 1987 to 1990 or so, and it really changed me. Tom was a brilliant technician, and he did so much for me in terms of musicianship, sight reading and reading, improvisation, technique, everything. But he was very interested in the guitar harmonically as well. If you're not familiar with Tom's work, he, again, from the South Jersey, Philadelphia area, as was Sonny Troy. Look them up on YouTube, look up videos. Tom was such a poetic player. But he was the first person that got me to think about some unusual string groupings on the guitar. And I remember as part of our lessons, and in fact I still have my old notebooks, he would put out recommendations for more unusual string groupings. Specifically the 1-2-4-6, I remember he, and that's how I think I got fond of that string group as well. I just really thought those sounds were beautiful. I remember sort of becoming, obsessed with these sort of things. I mean, he really got me interested in those sorts of sounds, the more unusual string groups. And he didn't tell me what to do with them, but at the same time, he would insist that I start chord melodies with those unusual string groups in jazz. And then, of course, I took them into different areas of the music. So another person that I used to keep in touch with throughout my career, if I did a new album, I used to bring the albums to him and just to see what he thought of them. So if a new album was coming out, I would go to Tom's place. Just a beautiful human being. His wife, Pat, was an amazing person to me as well. And so I would just like to make him obviously a part of this dedication. And last but not least, Dennis Sandole, who I studied with for 10 years after Tom. And Dennis was Tom's teacher. Dennis also, if you're not familiar with him, was the teacher and the mentor of John Coltrane. Also James Moody, Art Farmer, Benny Golson, McCoy Tyner, Pat Martino, Jim Hall, so many, Dale Bruning, Randy Brecker, Reggie Workman. So many people studied with Dennis. And I did these string group exercises or approaches to all of his material. So that was the point where I got most intense into this sort of material, was from 1990 till his passing in 2000 and then forward. And I did all of his assignments using this sort of concept, the 4 string groups, and then just expanding them just as I discussed them in the videos. So with all of Dennis's material, whenever there was a harmonization assignment, I did them using these principles. And he was so inspiring, and he was somebody, in a sense, who first put forth these ideas, or one of the first people, definitely. If you look at a book called Guitar Lore, which I suggest you do, it's a good reference book, but there are 9 of the 15 in there. Dennis puts 9 of those groups within it. So this concept isn't new per se, but it's expanded. Dennis just gives the inversions within that, the basic inversions. But the material within this is an expansion, basically, of that kind of thinking, from Dennis and Tom and etc. on over. It's that type of thinking. And I've used this material on all of my albums. Every album that I've ever done, this is the way I play chords. So with my material, it would be The Hand Farm. There's 2 albums by that group, which was my trio. Phineas Gage, which was a progressive rock group that I was a part of. There are 2 albums there from the late 90s. McGill, Manring, Stevens, which is with me, Michael Manring on bass, and Vic Stevens. There's 3 albums. Jones, McGill, and DiCarlo, which is me, Percy Jones, and Richie DiCarlo, still my bandmate and best friend. 3 albums there, and a variety of albums by a group that Richie and I kept going called Freakzoid. There are 2 albums, and there are a number of solo albums, etc., with these sorts of groupings with me and Richie DiCarlo in some capacity. But all of those releases have this kind of approach to the chords, so it's just a part of what I do. But I have to thank those 4 individuals again, for not just inspiration, but for giving me a vocation and allowing me, in a sense, putting me on a track where I could investigate things like this in a full manner and develop my own way of looking at the chords, so that I can share them with anybody else that cares to check it out and listen. So I again, welcome to the book. I hope you find the material satisfying and useful, and I hope it gives you a long study and a long appreciation for chords on the guitar, and plenty of hours of looking at the instrument harmonically, and hopefully to help you develop your own type of music.